Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. Another week, another Packers win over the Seattle Seahawks last Sunday. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be previewing this Sunday's NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm here with my co-host, Bron, as always. Bron, how you doing?
Great Packers victory against the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC divisional round. We've got a huge game coming up against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So I think I speak for all Packers fans when I say we're pretty ecstatic heading into this Sunday.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. And to think of the Packers as one of the final four teams remaining in the NFL, just one win away from the Super Bowl, that's just incredible, especially as a Packers fan dealing with the past two seasons. It's just incredible. And we're going to open with some news. And I guess our first piece of news is that there is no news because the Packers are completely healthy. All 52 players on the roster were practicing today, which is exactly what you want going into a game of this magnitude. And you can say the same for the 49ers. They're almost completely healthy as well. So it's strength versus strength. The two remaining teams in the NFC fighting for a spot in the big one. There's no excuses. There should be no excuses. It's just strength versus strength, and that's what you want in a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look up and down the Packers roster, and the only questionable player is Danny Vitale, the fullback. One person that we're looking at who's not currently on the roster, but we'd like to bring him up is Raven Green, who was obviously out for most of the season and went on IR, and we designated him to return. He couldn't make it for the Seattle game, but we're looking to bring him back for this week's game, and we've left that spot open, 52 out of 53 right now, and we're leaving that spot open for him. So hopefully we can get him back because, we'll get into why he's going to be a big factor for this Sunday's game. But so on the injury front, the Packers are doing well, and the same goes for the San Francisco 49ers. The bye week did both teams wonders. The Packers had to deal with a bit of an illness bug, but they've gotten over it seems like, including some of the players that were suffering from it. So things are looking up right now for both teams on the injury front, and it looks like we're going to get the two best versions of those teams on Sunday.
Yeah, and Brian Bulaga kind of implied that it was just a 24-hour kind of bug. And he was one of the players who got bit by this illness bug, and it was actually late Saturday afternoon. He was reported as questionable for that Sunday's game, and he was actually active for the game, but on the first series, Jared Veldheer was in the game. Brian Bulaga tried to go, he couldn't, and Veldheer played the rest of the game, and he played well, actually. Didn't give up a single sack or hit or hurry, I don't think, in pass protection. A little shaky on run blocking sometimes, but what more can you ask for from your backup right tackle than to keep your quarterback clean all game?
Yeah, he really did a phenomenal job in there, and having to come in and start basically out of the blue after Brian Bulaga comes down with this illness, and that's just a big player that you can plug in and just let him go to do work, and that's so valuable to have a guy that just you can bring in late in the season, a veteran with 100 starts in his career. It's really a phenomenal job. You can't credit enough Brian Gutekunst and his staff, and you can't credit the player Jared Veldheer for not only staying in shape but being able to come in, learn this offense right away, and contribute at a very high level.
Seriously, credit to Brian Gutekunst. Where does he find these people? Tyler Ervin, Jared Veldheer, he's been trying out a bunch of CFL players the past few weeks. He is like searching the earth for talented football players, and he's been finding them. To his credit, Tyler Ervin and Jared Veldheer have helped this team immensely, especially last week. Last week, they were two of the X factors, unsung heroes of last week's win. And that's all credit to Brian Gutekunst. I don't know how many GMs of contending football teams like this can search for athletic, talented, unknown players like he can. Think about all the undrafted free agents we found the past 2 years. It's just really incredible on his part.
Yeah, and that really goes back to his. I think it goes mostly back to what he did as a scout. I mean, he was with us for 20 years as a scout, and he was just phenomenal at that, obviously, and he was able to really translate that, the skills he learned over the course of his career with the Packers at that lower level. He was able to use those skills in finding guys like Zadarius Smith, and for guys he had highly touted like Zadarius Smith, like Preston Smith coming out of the draft back when they declared. So it's just an attribute to him and his staff for finding guys like that. Really, not only just the lower level guys that we talked about, but some of these guys that are contributing for us in a big way at this moment. These guys that haven't played great maybe in their careers and are kind of breaking out here for the Green Bay Packers in these playoffs. So just you can't say enough about what he's done for us there in that aspect. And these players, they're like Aaron Rodgers said today. Those guys are like the glue guys that have kind of just brought this team together and just put them where we need to be and just sealed up every spot that we have. And it's made us a very complete team, very balanced team, and things are looking up.
That's clearly a priority of Gutekunst. It's just really amazing how he can find players who aren't superstars yet, but he sees the potential, and usually he's right. So far, he's been right most of the time. I mean, who's the biggest free agent signing who was actually like a big name for other teams? Like Adrian Amos, he was one of the top safeties on the market, but Za'Darius and Preston weren't really. Preston more so, but Za'Darius was a career backup in Baltimore. The fact that Brian Gutekunst gave him that money, gave him that contract, and just off of almost blind faith, not really blind faith, because he had good reps when he was in the game in Baltimore, and he just went off of that, and it's paid off for sure. And even going to guys like Rashawn Gary or Darnell Savage, who went to a small school and was a projected early second rounder for most of the draft process, and he trades up to get Darnell Savage because he just trusts his instinct. He knows what he sees. He sees a future All-Pro, which I'm sure that's what he's hoping for. And same with Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary didn't put up big numbers at Michigan. That was the biggest question mark for him, was his production. Where's his production? He's such a freak athlete, but where's the production? Brian Gutekunst is counting on these players to enter their primes in Green Bay, not sign players in the middle of their prime. And that goes for the players he drafts as well. He's not looking for players who put up these huge highlights and huge numbers in college. He's looking for athleticism. He's looking for traits he likes that he thinks can develop into future NFL stars, which, I mean, if that's his game, then he's a master at it seems like. And I guess that's it for news. Let's dive into the Seahawks game from last week. Packers win 28-23 in a great game from the Packers on offense and defense for the most part. Bron, any general thoughts on the win last week?
Well, just overall, I thought we executed exactly what we wanted to do on offense. The passing game, Aaron Rodgers really threw the ball well. Aaron Jones ran the ball well. We had some, guys step up when we needed them, and we'll get to that later. But just overall, I thought Matt LaFleur had an excellent game plan, and we executed it to a T. And on defense, we did our job for the first half. We let our offense get a big lead, and then we were able to contain them and end up winning the game. So that's about as much as you can ask for. And, against a great team, great quarterback, just a great win overall. Yeah,
I'm with you there. I think we finally saw the stars of this Packers offense all play at a high level in the same game. Not that happened. Not that hasn't happened before this season, but I think this was the highest peak they've all hit at the same time. Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, Davante Adams, and Aaron Jones. Matt LaFleur called the game of his career, which has only been 14 games, but wow, he was dealing on Sunday. Some of those play calls and play designs were just phenomenal from him, and Aaron Rodgers was dialed in. He was so poised and locked into the game, so efficient on third down especially. That was one of the best games I've seen from him in a while as he enters this kind of late stage of his career. And then Davante Adams had 160 yards, which is a Packers postseason record. Aaron Jones, I don't think he had a great day on the ground, but I mean, if you watch the game, you know that he was a key piece in our offensive production. So I think that was really important, finally getting these guys to play at a high level at the same time. And I think that has a lot to do with what Rodgers said last week, which was that they're not going to try as much new stuff with the offense. They're just going to focus on the things they do well, the things they know they do well, and just kind of work with what they have and what they all succeed with. And that's very promising for this game and maybe 2 weeks after that. That this Packers offense, maybe they were so slow those last 6 weeks because they were trying too much stuff that they just weren't on the same page with, which is what it looked like for sure. And when you compare that to last week's offensive performance, it was just everything was so in sync, and you have to attribute that to the fact that they're only doing things that they know everyone in that huddle is super confident in.
Yeah, and a difference from what we've seen from this Packers offense all year long is the third down efficiency. I mean, they went 9 of 14, and that's unbelievable, really, against a team that is really has talented players all across that defense. So yeah, that was a big reason why the Packers were able to get out with the win. And some of those third downs were in key points in the game in the fourth quarter. It was just a really great job, obviously, after struggling on third down. And I think that has a lot to do with how Matt LaFleur really dialed up some plays that he knew had a chance to work. And then, we've heard about it all week about how Aaron Rodgers, sent out an audible to get Devontae Adams on a different route. And he saw an advantage and he took it, and it worked on third down. And it was a big play. So just a really great job by that offense, by Aaron Rodgers, by his receivers, Jimmy Graham, Devontae Adams. We were able to do a great job on third down, and that was really one of the keys to the victory.
Third and long, especially. Third and long, this Packers offense has been terrible all season. Uh, Among the league's worst in third and long percentages. Third down in general was bad, but third and long especially. And in this game, they were 6 for 9 on third and 6 or more yards, which is a 66% conversion rate. During the season, it was 22%, so that is certainly improvement.
Yeah, and you talk about improvement. We went 1 of 10 against the San Francisco 49ers, and we've been inching up and getting better ever since that game, really in all facets of our football team. But I think third down, we've been getting a little bit better each and every week, and the Seattle game was kind of a product of what we've been working towards.
Rodgers specifically was 9 of 11, 121 yards, a touchdown with a 155.8 rating on third down, which that's just prime Aaron Rodgers. That is Aaron Rodgers locked in, knowing he has to move the sticks, and he was throwing seeds all night long on Sunday, especially on third down. And he was just so hyper efficient. It was something we hadn't seen from him in a long time this season, since that Raiders game probably, where he looked so focused. He looked like he knew what he was doing on every single play. There were no question marks. He knew where to go with the football, and he put it right on the money almost every single time. I don't think he had a single throw that made you scratch your head or anything.
Yeah, and that was playoff Aaron Rodgers. He is ready. This is what he does. This is when the lights shine the brightest, he comes to play, and you know that he's going to be ready for whatever comes his way. And I think this game coming up is going to be another example of that. But he just and here's another example of how good he played. PFF, Pro Football Focus, graded Aaron Rodgers a 92.8, and that was the best he's had since Super Bowl XLV. That's the best grade he's had in any game since that Super Bowl win 10 years ago. So that just tells you how great he played, and he really is locked in right now. He's finding his guys in rhythm, according to the plan, executing it well, and we're gonna have to continue to do that this Sunday.
Yeah, and he's said it a million times this season. He's not that guy anymore where he has to be like, he's not Russell Wilson. We saw in Russell Wilson what we used to see in Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to put the team on his back. He can just play within an offense, take what the defense gives him, take what Matt LaFleur gives him, and he's still going to win games. He's still going to get the highest graded game by Pro Football Focus since the Super Bowl. He's still an assassin from the pocket. He doesn't have to try and do too much. And Devontae Adams said that this week, that's the worst thing you can do in the playoffs is try and do too much. And maybe that's what we were seeing from Aaron late in the season. He kind of did revert back to some of his old tendencies, and those just all went away on Sunday. And it was really great to see. Great to see Aaron Rodgers do what he knows he can do and take what the offense gives him and just make the job easy on himself and rely on other players in the offense.
Yeah, I really think the bye week might have, done Aaron Rodgers some good in that aspect of getting back to what he does best. And he talked about the importance of self-scouting that week and how that was going to help him, kind of reflect on the regular season and just get back to what he does best, look and see the things that he did well and the things that he didn't do well this season, and just kind of put it together. And he really did that, and that showed. Against the Seahawks. And, we talk about one of the matchups that we saw in that game being that middle of the field battle, Aaron Rodgers versus those linebackers, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. And, it was pretty clear who won that battle by the end of the game. and it was Aaron Rodgers, and it was also, Devontae Adams in the slot and Jimmy Graham in the slot in line, coming out and making big third down catches, and Devontae Adams catching balls all over the middle of the field. So it was pretty paramount of the Packers to be able to win that battle, which was maybe the toughest one to win. And we got the job done in that aspect, and you got to give credit to Aaron Rodgers and that whole offense. Devontae Adams, he put up record-setting numbers, 160 yards on 8 catches. That's special numbers. He averaged 20 yards a catch. He had some great routes, some of his best of the season. And Aaron Rodgers talked about it this week. He talked about how special that connection is becoming between him and Adams, similar to what he had with Jordy Nelson. That timeless, just the perfect. They know what's going on in each other's heads at all times, and they're developing that after all these years, and that's special, especially at a time now where we need that more than ever against a great 49ers defense. So you talk about record-setting game for Devontae Adams, huge playoff numbers in a game that we needed to win. That tells you so much about the character of this team, and specifically Adams. To shine brightest in the moments that we need him to most. And now we're moving on, and you can't say enough about the leadership in that locker room. You can't say enough about the character of the football team, and I'm excited.
He also had 2 touchdowns on 2 beautiful routes, 2 top 20 Devontae Adams routes in his career. He has a lot of them for sure, but those were amazing, and both of them came off of great play designs from Matt LaFleur. And just to touch on Matt LaFleur, those were 2 beautiful play designs from him. And the first touchdown from Adams was a great tendency breaker. He and Geronimo both act like they're running a slant flat, which is something we ran a ton in 2019. And as they're going out their breaks, Geronimo breaks inside rather than outside, and Adams breaks outside instead of inside, and he's wide open for the touchdown. And that is a great route from Adams, but probably an even better play design from Matt LaFleur. And that's something that excites you. That's something that gets you pumped, knowing that we have a head coach who's getting creative, who's breaking his own tendencies, who sees something specific in a defense, sees something specific in himself. You talk about the self-scouting over the bye week, sees something specific he does as a head coach, as a play designer, and completely flips it on his head, and it goes for a 30-yard touchdown, whatever it was. And that was just amazing from him. And it really gets you excited about this week, thinking about what is he going to look at from that first meeting where nothing went right? Absolutely nothing went right on the offensive side of the ball, especially. I'm very excited to see his game plan going into this week. And
I mean, you talk about Devontae moving around, and that's really been the prerogative ever since he's come back from that injury. And just really since that San Francisco game, we've really started to move him around, and that's really been the key. He's had the most success throughout his career when he's moving around, and just getting a lot of opportunities and getting advantageous matchups. And it starts with, getting him away from their number one corner and just letting him go to work on guys who aren't even close to his level. And he does a great job at that. Matt LaFleur especially. I mean, to be able to put guys in positions to succeed like that, that's just a testament to how great of a head coach he is. But we're going to have trouble doing that against, a team like the 49ers, who may decide that they want to travel Richard Sherman with Adams. Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers both talked about how they anticipate that they won't be doing that, but they do have a game plan in their back pocket for if they do end up making Richard Sherman kind of stick with Adams. So that's going to be an interesting thing looking ahead. But in terms of what they did against the Seahawks, you saw more of the same. You had Adams going up against rookies, just backups, and Trey Flowers, he had taken advantage of all game. There was nobody that was going to be able to guard him, and they still were able to move him around and let him take advantage. And you saw him making catches on the outside, in the middle of the field, everywhere, all around the field. So it's just, that's just exciting because he's a true playmaker. Just like Aaron Jones is, we move him around everywhere in the same way. So just to have guys like that are so versatile and just can do anything for us and just become a matchup nightmare, it's incredible.
And having a player like that, who's basically just a chess piece, essentially, has to be so exciting for a coach like Matt LaFleur, who loves getting into his own tendencies and breaking them, like I said. that has to be so fun for him, and he has to be really looking forward to this week, thinking about all the potential things he can do with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers too, because they were getting really experimental with him last week, and it definitely worked out. So let's hope we see more of that in the game or games to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And, our offense just played so great as a collective group. Guys like Geronimo Allison, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, they each had a catch or two around, when we needed them. Tyler Irvin obviously came in, made plays. We got the job done, and it was just a great effort by the offense to come out to a big lead at halftime and just make sure we got the win. So, but the defense played a great part in letting us get that huge lead. Guys like Blake Martinez, Jair Alexander, Adrian Amos, Tremont Williams all had impact plays in the game, and it just helped us pad a lead and kind of send us into a point where we could just do our thing in the second half. And even as the Seahawks tried to mount a comeback, we were able to stop it and end up winning the game.
Yeah, I thought the defense played really strong. I mean, you look at the second half, and a lot of people are saying that the Packers defense fell apart and we almost lost the game, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as they say. And I think the Packers defense really was resilient in the second half. Russell Wilson is maybe the best quarterback in the league. If not the best, he's the second best. He's not going to quit in the middle. He's not going to quit at halftime. We knew he was going to come back. He was going to do something extraordinary that no other quarterback can do. And that's exactly what he did, because he's Russell Wilson. He put the team on his back and mounted a comeback. The Packers defense did all that they can do. They were gassed, they were winded, and that's what happens when you're playing against quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, who can escape the pocket at any time, who's a threat to throw the ball no matter where he is in the backfield. With those receivers like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who are so dangerous down the field. The Packers held Russell Wilson to 2 of 5 on throws 20-plus yards downfield on Sunday, which is just phenomenal, especially when you think about it being Russell Wilson, who came into the game tied for first in the league for most completions 20-plus yards downfield. I think the defense really played well all game, especially in the first half. Holding them to 3 points is just incredible, but we knew that they were going to come back, and that's all because of Russell Wilson. I cannot put that second half on the Packers defense.
No, you can, and it's just because that's a great quarterback. You got to give them a lot of credit. They've got great coaching staff, and they came out with a good plan at halftime to kind of try to mount a comeback, and they did, and it got close there at the end. But like we talked about on offense, we were able to convert and do the things we had to do to get the win. And defense, we obviously they had that chance to come down and get within scoring distance and get a shot to win the game there, but Preston Smith came up with the huge sack. And then made it fourth down, and we were just able to ice the game at that point, and that's a big part of what we had to do. We come up as a defense. This is really our prerogative all year long. All year long, our defense. This has been the prerogative. It's been a bend but don't break defense, and we barely bent at all in the first half, and then in the second half, the comeback began, and we began to bend a little bit more. And then it came time where we had to come and make a stop, and we did. And then we were able to win the game. So that's just that really attributes to how we can win the football game. And we just have many ways to win, both on offense and defense. And we're starting to really put things together here. Just an impressive first year from the Packers, and just playing complementary football right now. And we've got to continue to do that as we head into the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. That's what this defense is. They're not really going to wow anyone with their statistical rankings, but they've proven that when they need to, they can come up clutch, whether that be via turnovers or forced punts or turnover on downs. That Preston Smith sack being a perfect example. The Seattle offense had been rolling through us the entire second half, and then when we really need someone to make a play, someone make a huge stop, Preston Smith comes up, and that's exactly what we're relying on this defense to do, to bend but don't break. And they did a lot of bending in the second half this week, which a little too close for comfort, but they came up clutch when we needed them to.
Yeah, and you talk about our defense coming up clutch and performing in big situations. Well, this playoff game, right? We go and get a touchdown on the first drive, and then our defense comes out on the first play, and seemingly, Jair punches the ball out, and we've got the ball back. Obviously, that was overturned, and you thought that could have been a big turning point in the game, where if Seattle went down and scored right away, then it becomes an issue like, well, that's something that, we had it looked to everybody, and Chandon Sullivan gave the referee the ball after the play. It looked like he had made a clear recovery, but obviously they weren't able to overturn that call, and we were still able to overcome that, which was impressive by just, we attribute everything to the coaching staff and everybody involved. And that just, again, it just shows how great this character of this team is to be able to overcome something like that. A call that doesn't go our way. That would have put us in a great position to take an even bigger lead. But still, we were able to come out with the win in a big way. And, that's just, I thought, one of the most impressive parts of the defense was to be able to rebound from something like that.
Yeah, and just to get into some big performances from the defense, Zadarius Smith is always at the top of this list because he is just incredible. He had only 2 sacks, not only, I guess, but it seemed like he should have had 8 or 9 sacks. He had 11 pressures on Sunday night, which was his 3rd time this season having 10 or more pressures, which is just incredible. The way he's able to produce wherever he is on the line, that's what separates him from other pass rushers in the league. He is able to get in the backfield no matter where he is, and Mike Pettin takes full advantage of that, and he has the past 6-7 weeks. He's been unstoppable because of the way Mike Pettin is using him, and he is producing at an incredibly high level. And I don't think I remember a Packers defender being this unstoppable like Zadarius Smith is. I wish he could convert more of these pressures into sacks, because then he'd start getting the name recognition, because he's just a beast. One of the best players in the NFL, full stop. It's a shame he didn't make the All-Pro or the Pro Bowl.
Well, you talk about a guy like him. He's got the size of a nose tackle. He's got the power of a defensive end, and he's got the quickness and speed around the edge of an outside linebacker. And to throw those all together into one human, one giant force like him, it just makes him so valuable. And Mike Pettin utilizes him in really a perfect way. To be able to put him all over the line, it's kind of similar to what we talk about with Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. It confuses the defense. It's like they don't know where he's coming from on any given play. So all of a sudden, it changes the protection. They have to make a move to account for this guy. And not to mention, there's a guy on the other side, or a guy who he's a similar player who can move around. He doesn't do it as much, but, there's a guy that could be on the other side in Preston Smith that, can obliterate you as well. And not to mention, Kenny Clark is right there as well. We have so many guys that are just going to come after you in different spots. And Mike Pettin does a great job of that. The personnel department in there, able to get guys on the field, different packages of players. It's really impressive. And that's one of the reasons we get so much pressure, is because it's so hard to predict what we're going to do each and every week and who we're going to have out there. Because each guy is different. They're able to get to the quarterback in many different ways. So that obviously helps. But when we're facing a quarterback like Russell Wilson, we got to him so many times. But the difference between a guy like him and other quarterbacks is he's so versatile outside the pocket that it's hard to wrap him up. But a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who we're going to be talking about in a little bit, he's not going to be as mobile. And hopefully we're going to be able to complete some of those sacks that we kind of left on the field against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think of it as Preston Smith being your more traditional 3-4 outside linebacker. He's athletic. He's a great pass rusher. He's been a great pass rusher all season. But Zadarius Smith is just a football player. He can do anything you ask of him. And he's now the guy teams are game planning for. He's the guy teams are trying to take away. And that opens up opportunities for guys like Kenny Clark, guys like Dean Lowry, and Preston Smith, giving them more one-on-one opportunities. And Kenny Clark especially has just been insane the past 10 weeks. He's averaging like 0.88 sacks per game, which is tied for first in the league with Aaron Donald. And he's second in the NFL in quarterback pressures from an interior defensive lineman, only second to Aaron Donald. He's really been coming on lately, and that's what we expected from him going into his 3rd season. We thought he'd finally make that jump to one of the undeniable elite players in the NFL, and he's finally becoming that the past 10 weeks. And he had another great game on Sunday against Seattle, and we can only hope we see more of that this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to bring some pretty diverse pressure packages, and not even just blitzes, but we're gonna have to bring some stuff that the 49ers haven't seen from us yet on tape. We have to do some things different, obviously, just to throw them off and do what we have to do against a team like the 49ers who beat us in a big way in our first matchup. But let's talk about just some of the secondary play against the Seahawks. You saw Tyler Lockett go off for 136 yards on I think it was 9 catches. We kind of held DK Metcalf back a little bit after he went for 160 yards the week prior. So I don't know. I thought Kevin King didn't have a great game. He played good in the run game, stopping short passes, things like that. But he did get beat a few times. And Jair Alexander had a bit better of a game. He made some more plays. He was dynamic. But still, we've got to get a little bit more consistency from those two when it comes down to the playoffs. And I expect that from both of them, and I think we will get it. Tramon Williams did a good job in the slot, fulfilling his role. Chennon Sullivan played well. And don't get me wrong, Kevin King and Alexander they played at a high level, but we just have higher expectations for those guys because we expect them to lock down whoever we put in front of them, And then obviously Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage both had excellent games, and Ibrahim Campbell as well played well. So I thought the secondary did a good enough job to really contain their passing game. What the majority of their offense was Seattle giving Russell Wilson the opportunity to run the ball more in the second half. That's what opened up a lot of the stuff that they were doing. But overall, I thought we really contained their passing game and really their run game as well. And that was kind of what afforded us the victory.
The thing with the secondary is we came into this game knowing that our biggest weakness on defense was explosive plays. We allowed way too many explosive plays, the most in the league. And we knew Seattle was an offense that heavily relied on explosive plays. So that was something that worried me going into the game, thinking about how ugly that could get with Russell Wilson running around and DK Metcalf breaking wide open down the field, or Tyler Lockett, the same thing. And the Packers did not allow that to happen all night. And that's just incredible, especially coming from that group who's done it so many times to such worse competition. I thought the whole secondary really played well, and communication comes a lot into that. And I think they've improved on the communication among the secondary. That's really what you need to see from a playoff team, a 13-3 team going against an offense in Seattle's. You can't allow anything more than what they allowed. And yeah, that secondary really had a really strong game. And we're hoping to see more of that from the defense this Sunday in the NFC Championship game. And we're going to get into that now. We're going to preview this upcoming game against the San Francisco 49ers in a playoff rematch from earlier this season. Week 12, the Packers got routed by a score of 37-8. The Packers were not able to put anything together. I'm sure you remember that game. But we're hoping things go differently, and I think they will go much differently this time around. Bron, do you have any general thoughts on this upcoming game?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the two best teams in the NFC here. This is the game that's going to decide who the best team in the NFC is. I really think the two best teams in the NFC got into this NFC Championship game. So we're going to see what happens here. I really think, the best team in the NFC is going to go on to face the Chiefs or the Titans. And we're going to have to see who that is. And it's going to be a great matchup, a rematch. Packers are looking to avenge that loss. And, there's a lot of things that we could talk about from that last game that went wrong. But really, it's about making those corrections and making it right. And I think this bye week has helped us in that aspect to kind of correct ourselves. And also this week that we've had here is going to help correct some of the things we did in that game. So, we're going to have to make a lot of changes and do a lot of things differently. But I have a good feeling that this game's going to end differently than the last one did.
Well, it certainly won't be a 29-point difference, I don't think. This Packers team there's no way they're going to come out as flat as they did week 12. We know that they are on top of their A game right now. They are dialed in. The whole team is so dialed in. And they know they're the underdogs. They're 7.5-point underdogs, and they know that. They've known all season that no one expects them to go to the Super Bowl. No one expects them to be here right now. No one expected them to win the NFC North, and that's what's been fueling them. The chip on their shoulder of knowing that no one believes in them. And I think that's really going to help this week. I think the bye week helped a lot in the game plan for this game. I'm sure they went back and looked at that awful performance, their worst performance of the year on offense and probably defense as well. And they have to fix those things up, and I you have to count on them. You have to expect that they did. Just going by how optimistic the team sounds, it gets me really excited.
Yeah, there's a buzz really around the entire Packers offense. Really, yeah, I think they're just really confident in the game plan. They all seem excited about what Matt LaFleur has brought to the table, and especially Devontae Adams. I think he's pretty excited about what they have planned for him specifically, to be able to move him around really more than ever, and try to get him away from Richard Sherman. I'm sure that excites him. I think they really. I don't think they would mind having him just kind of get followed by Richard Sherman. I think they have no problem, having him come and try to attack him everywhere he goes. That way, that's going to open things up for other guys as well, and that's where we have to have guys that haven't stepped up really come and step up here. So there's a lot of elements to what we're going to have to do to win the game. And one of the things I look at from the beginning of last game, we started out hot, we got a couple first downs, and then that penalty set us back, and we weren't able to convert. Obviously, we had that turnover. And then that obviously put the San Francisco 49ers in a great position. They came out, scored right away. And then that kind of had the game derailed very early, and we just couldn't get anything going from that point on. But I think the fact that we were able to move on them early on, we got a first down, like I said. Things were looking good. Devontae Adams looked like he might have one of those games because we were going to move him around, do the things we wanted to do, get Aaron Jones the football, come out to an early lead, and then play our brand of football. But that turnover cost us badly. But the key for us is to avoid those turnovers, especially in the points where we have to come out and get a score early in the game. We can't let the Niners get ahead of us, because then we lose our balance. We lose our our two-dimensional style of offense, where we're going to be able to keep that run-pass balance, which Matt LaFleur really likes to do, to keep them not only guessing, but to keep us just at a complementary level. And I think that we're going to have to do some things differently to avoid those turnovers, like getting Aaron Rodgers a clean pocket, having Jamal Williams in the game possibly a little more with some two-back sets. I think would be beneficial to not only Aaron Rodgers in the pass protection, but to Aaron Jones in the passing game. So those are just things I want to see. Like I think that's something that Matt LaFleur might have come up with here, doing more of those two-back sets that we really haven't done as much since maybe that Eagles game, is where we saw it early on, but Jamal Williams ended up getting hurt in that game and wasn't able to finish. But we were seeing some things early in the season with him and Aaron Jones. So I think that's something we could see. He hasn't been too involved in the game plan recently. So I think if we kind of bring him back into the fold and get him involved in a big way, not only, pass protection, getting the football, in his hands out of the backfield, I think we can kind of do something that would kind of catch them off guard and just allow for a smoother offensive just game overall.
Well, I think Tyler Ervin has a lot to do with that. I think Matt LaFleur can get more creative with Tyler Ervin. He's got a wider skill set, and we've seen that since he joined the team. He's been used in a multitude of different ways on offense and in the punt return game, of course. But as for this game, the turnovers are definitely something that cannot happen. We cannot just you take out the Minnesota game, and turnovers kill this team. It just sucks the air out of the whole team, it feels like. I mean, the Minnesota game was incredible, those 3 turnovers, and we were still able to win that game convincingly. But for the most part, turnovers have killed this team all year, and they're riding such a high confidence level right now. They know they're the underdogs. Rodgers and Devontae Adams talked about it, how all the pressure is on the 49ers. No one expects the Packers to win. They're playing with house money. So all the pressure is on the 49ers. And they've got the chip on their shoulder. They're so confident in themselves. As turnovers could just wreck that entire thing, especially something like we saw in Week 12 where Rodgers fumbled and basically gave the 49ers a touchdown from the inside the 5, I'm pretty sure. So if we can just avoid those at all costs, obviously that's ideal. No football team wants turnovers, but especially for this team, I feel like we can go into this game with the confidence we have coming off of that win last week, knowing that the whole world, no one believes in you. I think that's what the team really needs for a game like this, going against such a good team. we're not the better team on paper, but if we come in with a better mental mindset, I guess, and avoid stepping on our own toes, then that's what would really put us ahead of the 49ers, I think.
Well, I think as a team, we really live and die by getting turnovers and not turning the ball over, maybe more than anybody in the NFL. I mean, having Aaron Rodgers, a guy who only threw 4 interceptions this year, we don't put the ball on the ground very much in the running game, and we get turnovers, we get interceptions, we force fumbles, and that really changes the game. It flips the field for us, and that's when we take advantage best, when we get those turnovers and when we keep the ball in our hands. So it's going to be important. We have to win the turnover battle. That's something we didn't do against the 49ers. And if you reverse that, where we get those turnovers and don't give the ball up in that game, we don't know how that could have gone. We could have scored right away, and then all of a sudden it's a shootout, and we don't know what's going to happen. So, turnovers really change the game, because it not only gets your offense off the field, but it puts the defense in a bad spot. So we're going to have to do something to make sure that we play conservative enough where we keep the ball in our hands while still trying to, do our thing and get our offense executed at a high level. And that's going to be the challenge for Matt LaFleur. It's going to be the challenge for Nathaniel Hackett. And it's going to be the challenge for Mike Pettin to get those turnovers. So I don't know. It's just, you have to look at where we're going to try to produce them and in what way. But I think that might be the most paramount thing for us heading into Sunday.
And that all comes back to the fact that we're not trying anything new anymore. This isn't a new offense to anyone anymore. They're only doing things that everyone is very comfortable with and very good at doing, very good at executing. So I think fewer turnovers will be the result of that. Less mistakes by the receivers or Aaron Rodgers or the pass protection, whatever it may be. If you get this whole offense doing things that they're comfortable with, then obviously that margin for error is going to decrease.
Yeah, and as we look back on that Week 12 loss, there's a lot of things we're trying to point to as possible turning points for this game in the NFC Championship that could kind of, put the game in our favor and flip it the other way. And one of the things I think is most important that we're going to get here is Brian Bulaga back in the fold after playing just 9 snaps in that game. And not only that, Alex Slate ended up playing against Nick Bosa for the rest of the game. So that tells you kind of what we had to deal with there. But now we've even got Jason Valdir, like we said. He came in and played excellently, spelling Brian Bulaga with the illness. And to have him back in the fold is going to be great, Brian. And to have Jared behind him is going to be important as well. So we have to stop those pass rushers. Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa, maybe the one of the best duos in the NFL. So that's really two strengths on that team, on both teams, is our pass rushers. We've got, the interior just like they do, and we've got 2 great exterior pass rushers as well. So that's going to be a good, interesting little storyline going into the game.
Yeah, Nick Bosa dominated that game in Week 12, and you have to think Matt LaFleur is going to have some kind of plan for him. I'm sure you can tell I'm really excited to see this game plan, because it's not going to be something vanilla. It's not going to be something basic like we saw in the regular season. This is Matt LaFleur knowing that he is 1 win away from the Super Bowl in his rookie season as a head coach. He is going to craft a masterpiece of a game plan. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. And you got to think he's got a plan for Nick Bosa, because we cannot take 5-step drops and let Nick Bosa work one-on-one with Brian Bulaga. Brian Bulaga has been amazing this season, but Nick Bosa is an amazing player as well, and he's going to win some of those battles. A lot of those battles, probably, if we do attack him that way. So I'm definitely expecting to see a lot of bootlegs to kind of counter the pass rush. You got to keep the edge rushers honest. That's something Matt LaFleur has said in the past, something he preaches. You cannot just let them tee off on every snap. You have to fake the run. Use the play action game. Use the peeling off of the play action game on bootlegs. And then that also affects their linebackers, because we know their linebackers are very aggressive. They're very good, and they play the run very well, and that's because they are so aggressive. So if you can counter both of them and the pass rush at the same time, then that's something Matt LaFleur is going to want to take advantage of. And I think that's going to be what we're going to see a lot of this Sunday, is a lot of bootlegs, a lot of play action, a lot of things to maneuver around Nick Bosa and make the offense work without him wrecking the entire game. Teams have done it this season. I mean, he hasn't been great in every game he's played this season. Teams have figured out how to stop him, and I think Matt LaFleur is going to lean off of a lot of those game plans to create his own game plan for this week.
Yeah, and I think something like I mentioned earlier, I think having Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones in at the same time, even just on shotgun dropbacks, I think, that could be something that we could look at as we could do the play action off that, or we could do, or we could hand the ball off, or we could just let those guys block for Aaron Rodgers and have two receivers out there and just let them go to work. So, like, that's something I could see where if they want to give Rodgers more time and maybe Adams in a one-on-one matchup, I just think that kind of having the box filled is a possibility there, and maybe getting those one-on-one matchups or, the single high safety, maybe even zero coverage, which they rarely do on Rodgers. But I think that could be something where it opens up a few different options and maybe kind of changes the defensive perspective for the 49ers against this Aaron Rodgers-led offense.
Yeah, I think a lot of the game plan is going to be short passing, like as I said, to counter the pass rush, and because that's what the offense does well for the most of the time, short to intermediate passing routes. But when we play heavy personnel, I think that's when the deep shots are going to come, when we have like 3 tight ends in, like we did for the 40-yard Adams touchdown from last Sunday. We had 3 tight ends in the game. And that was in the middle of the game. It looks like we're just milking the clock. We ran on first down, and then we go play action with that beautiful play design. And obviously, it's a 40-yard touchdown. And I think that's going to be the MO this week as well. Run from a light personnel into a light box, and then use the play action passing game from a heavy personnel if you get more tight ends or more running backs in the game. Danny Vitale, if he can play, I think we're going to see a lot of him this week as well.
Yeah, and you talked about the quick passing game being something that could be a huge factor for us, and I just go back to thinking about how we lost that game, and we did have that one touchdown drive, but it really basically took up about 10 minutes of the quarter in that third quarter, and we talked about how that was just a frustrating thing, how we were just really milking the clock for no reason, just slow to get to the line of scrimmage, slow to get the play off, and still getting the play off with 3, 2, 1 on the play clock. And that was so aggravating. I could see Matt LaFleur coming up with something that really no team has seen all year long, and that's if we go a lot more no huddle. And that could be – there's a lot of things that Matt LaFleur could have done over this bye week that have, like, real merits to a change, something, like you said, tendency breakers. I think there's a lot of things that he hasn't even revealed yet that he could do. Like those 2 back sets, now like this no huddle offense that we could bring to the table. I just think those are some things that we could do to throw the 49ers off and maybe even, have them deviating from their game plan. And that's really what you want to do. You want to make a team go away from what they prepared all week for. If we're able to do that, that's a good way for the Packers to take advantage and try to win the game.
It's a perfect time to do it against a team that dominated you, that killed you for 4 entire quarters in the regular season. It's the perfect time to really study that game, look at what went wrong, and see where you can improve, and kind of maybe show like you're doing similar things from that Week 12 game and break out of them, like that slant flat touchdown or the fake slant flat touchdown to Devontae this week, or the multitude of things he's done all season, Matt LaFleur, to break his own tendencies. And if I imagine he just studied that game all week and is going to create his game plan going off of what went wrong in that game, that gets me excited, because I think Robert Saleh is kind of going to be preparing for, obviously, not that exact offense from Week 12, but he's going to be preparing for a similar offense, because that was basic offensive principles of Matt LaFleur. So if he can get fun, get weird with his play calls, get weird with his play designs, then that could spell success for the Packers offense, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, what an underrated factor of that game was how Matt LaFleur was. I mean, he's really good buddies with a lot of the guys there. Obviously, his brother's there. He was the best man at Robert Saleh's wedding. I mean, and we've talked ad nauseum about Kyle Shanahan and his relationship with Sean McVay and that coaching tree. I just think I think an underrated part of why we lost that game is because they knew what he likes to do. They know his personality as a play caller. They worked with him. They've known him. They've seen what he can do, and I think he went with what he knows at that time, and that was just how he calls plays, and he didn't kind of take into account that those guys really know what he does football wise. So if he's able to deviate from that, like we talked about, I think that would be interesting as well because now they're trying to come up with a game plan for something they've never seen at halftime. And, that's where we come out to a lead, and now they're trying to scramble something together and try to come back in the game. So that's the importance of getting a lead, doing what we want to do and making teams deviate from what they want to do. So I just think if we're able to do things that he hasn't done, at least this season, that would be very advantageous for us against a team that really knows what he does. And in the same light, we know what they do as well. I mean, Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, best buddies, and they should know what each other do. But it looked like those three guys they have over there, including his brother, it seemed like they put together something that was able to neutralize everything he tried to do that week. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'm confident in our ability to go out and do something like that. And this game is personal, and it's not just personal for Matt LaFleur. We've talked about it. It's personal for Aaron Rodgers. He even said at the podium this week how he had dreamed of playing in the Super Bowl with the 49ers. And he talked about how obviously that's not the case anymore. But this is personal for him. He's never gotten that true revenge against the 49ers for not picking him first overall. Yeah, and we remember what he said. How disappointed are you that you didn't get drafted number 1 by the 49ers? Not as disappointed that they didn't draft me. So, I mean, this is the shot for Rodgers. I think he is just as motivated as anybody to go out and, really put the dagger in the heart of the 49ers once and for all after we've really struggled against them in many playoff situations. I think this is the time for him to get that revenge, send us to the Super Bowl, and just really show the 49ers what they missed out on. And I think he's very motivated. He's always got that chip on his shoulder, and I think it's as big as ever this game, this Sunday, this matchup, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, you could argue it's personal for the entire roster. Being embarrassed on Sunday Night Football, live television, national television like that, like they were. I mean, they all have to have chips on their shoulders right now, and I think they all do. And I think that, like I said, that could be the difference in this game. We don't stack up with them on paper, but just the confidence, the chip on our shoulders, the underdogs that we are right now, going into San Francisco against a team who has done everything this season, beaten some great teams, played some great football. They have to be really high on themselves. And Emmanuel Sanders this week, when he saw the NFC Championship trophy, he was like, "Oh, that'll be ours soon." I mean, I think that just speaks to the whole confidence of that entire locker room. And it's not a confidence like we have in ourselves, whereas I think we are more, yeah, we know we're good, but no one else thinks we're good. I think the 49ers know they're good, and they know everyone thinks they're good. And you kind of see that every year, don't you? Isn't there always that one team that gets randomly hot that no one expected to get hot, and then they lose in the playoffs? Carolina Panthers 15-1 season comes to mind, or the Bears last year, or the Jaguars in 2017, or even the Ravens this year. There are these teams that get so much praise from the media, from the outside fans, that maybe it does go to their head. I mean, the evidence kind of points in that direction, and the Packers don't have to worry about that because no one believes in them. And I think that could really help them, especially with the identity that they have, the locker room culture that they've built. Everyone has a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're going to come out ready to play on Sunday, and that's so exciting. From a defensive perspective, we kind of just went over the offense. From a defensive perspective, how do you think we could stop the 49ers' excellent offense?
Well, I mean, you look at what they do best, and that's run the football, but maybe their best weapon overall is George Kittle, that tight end, that physical, blocking, receiving tight end. He does it all. He does it all at a high level, maybe the highest level. And he's going to be a tough matchup. But I said it before. The guy that I think that can at least help contain this guy, George Kittle, is Raven Green. If we get him back, we can do something similar to what we did with Ibrahim Campbell. we kind of put him in right into the lineup, and he played a significant amount of snaps right away. We're going to need to do that with Raven Green against George Kittle. I think he's the perfect matchup and the ideal matchup for us. Overall, just looking at what he can do, he bulked up in a big way this offseason, and that was very valuable to his ability to stop the run and cover the tight end. I think that really separated himself from some of the other safeties. And I just think it's hard to even call him a safety because he can play at linebacker now. Like, he's got the bulk on him where he can stop the run and cover the tight end, maybe better than some of the linebackers that we currently have. So I just think that if he can go, he has a chance to really be a game changer for us on Sunday. And I just think that his versatility is going to be something that is going to be a key for us.
Yeah, George Kittle's the real guy you have to worry about, especially when he destroyed us week 12. I think Mike Pettine's going to have a plan for him. Similar to Matt LaFleur, I think Mike Pettine is going to look a lot into what went wrong and work on fixing those errors. And George Kittle has to be at the top of that list because they didn't really go into that game having a plan for him, it seemed like, and he made us pay for sure. So I think we could see a lot more chipping from the edge rushers, trying to offset him from his release, make him not as big as a threat, stretching the field vertically, and trying to make Jimmy Garoppolo look more to his outside receivers, who are also extremely talented, but not like George Kittle where they can take over a game like he can.
They've got so many dynamic running backs. It's really, that's going to be really one of the challenges that we have to stop is their running game. They've got so many dynamic, versatile, different running backs that run the ball at a high level, and it's going to be so hard. I mean, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, and they've got other guys too. Those are just really their three primary guys. I mean, it's hard to even fathom how we're going to be able to stop that running game. We've got to play really strong up front, and really we have to take a lead early. And that way we have to force them to throw the football with Jimmy Garoppolo, get him under pressure, and, let the defense do its job and get home and make Jimmy Garoppolo make mistakes. And that's how we're going to win the game, basically. That's the formula. We have to get out to an early lead, avoid turnovers on offense, and really just let the defense go and run at them and make them throw the picks and make them fumble. And that's how we're going to win. It's got to be a collective effort from everybody. And I think it's going to be important to see what we can do with our cornerbacks against those receivers as well. Emmanuel Sanders, the late season pickup that has done a nice job for them. And then they've got some other guys on the outside, but, they haven't had anybody too spectacular step up besides maybe Kendrick Bourne, who had an excellent game against the Minnesota Vikings. They've got a lot of great depth at a lot of different positions. They don't have any true stars besides Kittle, but they do have the game plan, and they've got one of the best play callers out there in Kyle Shanahan and a great scheme to go with it. So there's going to be a lot of different challenges that we're going to face on defense, but if we do what we do best, I still think we could take advantage of some of their weaknesses, like that lack of star power. We're going to have guys that are going to be able to shut their number 2s and 3s down, and we're going to make them a little bit one-dimensional. I really feel like if we can do that, we're going to have a good shot to win it.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I don't know if their success on the ground comes from their talented running backs, who are very talented, but I mean, Kyle Shanahan is a genius. He's a football genius. And there's that story from Ryan Grant last season where he said in Washington under Kyle Shanahan, he spent more work in practice working on the run game in one practice than he did all week in Green Bay. And that just speaks to how committed Kyle Shanahan is to getting the run game going. So I can't imagine a scenario where we're able to completely shut the ground game down. I think they will have a lot of success on the ground. But the key comes with our offensive success and making sure that they can't win the game by just running the ball down our throats. We have to make Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball and take advantage of their lack of star players on the outside.
And another thing we have to take advantage of is the lack of inexperience at quarterback. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played in many playoffs. I mean, that was his first playoff game against the Vikings. And, he'll be at home again, but we have to make it an environment that he feels uncomfortable in. And that starts by making him uncomfortable in the pocket and we're gonna have to get to him a couple times. We're gonna have to make it, second and long, third and long, not manageable situations where we're able to get the ball back and kind of continue to do what we do on offense. I think we're really going to have a lot of success on offense. I just think we're going to, at least in terms of Matt LaFleur's game plan, I think it's going to be enough to get us points where we're going to be at least in the game, if not, with the lead, at least at halftime. I think we're going to really be in this one from the get-go. And I don't know, what the challenge is to be able to stop them on defense enough times where we come out with more points. And that sounds trivial, but it's true. It's just going to be about who gets the turnovers, really, because that's the game changer. That's where you can get 2 touchdowns in a row or just get a touchdown and a field goal and change the game completely and turn it on its head. So that's what the difference is going to be. Can you stop them on defense? That's the question for both teams. And can you get the turnovers when you need them most? So those are kind of really the storylines heading into the game. And it's going to be interesting to see who can really execute and win those matchups.
Yeah, and I think those turnovers could come as a result of Jimmy Garoppolo being inexperienced, as you said, and really, really just shaky under pressure, especially from the interior. He's not good with interior pressure. Most quarterbacks aren't, but he's a really solid, efficient quarterback with a clean pocket or even with outside pressure. But interior pressure, he's kind of like Kirk Cousins in that way, where he doesn't really know what to do and he will make bad decisions. So I think that could be a real attacking point from Mike Pettin, lining Zadarius Smith up inside more often. Side note, they also have Joe Staley coming back at left tackle, who did not play in the Week 12 game. So maybe we will see a lot more Zadarius and Kenny Clark inside rather than putting Zadarius outside for most passing downs. I also think Mike Pettin might blitz a lot more with his linebackers this week. Raven Green coming back. Maybe he uses him as a blitz piece. Blake Martinez is always great on the blitz, always great pressuring and rushing the quarterback. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. Break our own tendencies on defense as well, because we are not a heavy blitz team. We rarely blitz, which is weird for Mike Pettin. So maybe he can go back to what he knows, and that is crafting creative blitzes, getting free rushers, kind of like Matt LaFleur does with getting receivers open. Maybe Mike Pettin will commit to getting free rushers to the quarterback, making Jimmy Garoppolo uneasy, making him have to eat sacks and throw balls away more often than he does. And when you get Jimmy Garoppolo uncomfortable, you're not going to see as many explosive plays as we gave up in Week 12. And I kind of touched on that earlier, that we don't give up very many explosive plays as we used to, especially I was really talking about just last Sunday, but in general, the last 6 games, the explosive plays have for sure gone down, or at least they haven't had as big of an impact as they did early on in the season. And all that kind of came to a head in the Week 12 game. We gave up, I think, 2 that I can remember, 2 like 40-plus yard touchdowns, one of them to George Kittle. So I think that could be a huge turning point in this game as well, an area of improvement. We are much better at containing the long passing plays. The communication has improved, as I alluded to earlier. And actually, after that Week 12 game, the entire defense had a players-only meeting where they just broke down the film, held everyone accountable. Everyone said, this is what I should have been doing, this is what I should have been doing. And it seems like that kind of brought them together as a group, made them more familiar with each other, really. We haven't seen any real miscommunication from this secondary, especially since that game, I don't think. So I think that could be huge. It should be huge because we gave up 14 points, at least, to those kinds of plays, our own errors.
All right, so we've talked about the game. Griffin, what is your final prediction?
I think this could be another heartbreaking playoff loss for Packers fans. That's what I'm expecting. It's going to be close. It's not going to be 21 points. I do think the Packers will cover the 7.5-point spread, as we have in every game we've ever been a touchdown underdog with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. We've always covered those 7 points because Aaron Rodgers knows when he's the underdog, he needs to play at his best, and he usually does. And I think we're going to see a really strong game from him, a really strong game from the offense. We're going to put up a better fight than anyone is expecting. But I'm not ready to say that the Packers are going to win this thing, and I'm certainly hoping I'm wrong. but I see the Niners winning it very narrowly.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you. It's not where I thought we would win like last week. How I talked about just everything really came down to favoring us. This week, there's a lot of different things that could favor the 49ers over the Packers, but I just think if we continue to kind of play our best football each and every week, I really think we can come out with a win here. Something about the way this team is, I just don't see them losing. We talked about the character of the team. We talked about, how personal this is for Matt LaFleur, for Aaron Rodgers, for Zadarius Smith, for all these guys. This is a personal game, like you mentioned before. I just think so many factors lead me to believe that we're not going to let this one slip away. We've done it so many times. This is a new team. This is a new start for us. I just think we're going to come out. We know what we've done in the past. We've lost some of these games in the NFC Championship, heartbreaking losses to the Seahawks. I just think this time we're going to get the job done. I guess we'll see on Sunday, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And that's going to do it for the podcast. Thank you for listening once again. We should have Mason back next week, where hopefully we'll be talking about previewing the Super Bowl that hopefully the Packers will be playing in. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast. You'll probably find us. Me, Griffin, at All Day Packers on Instagram and Twitter, and Bron at Lambo Leapers on Instagram. Make sure to follow us. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to it. And yeah, thank you for listening. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go, baby.